I guess now if you do that, the answer is don't get medical care. In fact, I read about a large portion of people who are in car wrecks now. The doctor walks in and says, "Are you feeling depressed?" "Well, yeah, I broke my hip. Feeling really bad?" "Yeah, I'm depressed." "Well, I'm going to give you some of these." It's all being engineered to get people on these drugs, and they know. I mean, 20 years ago, you never heard of little girls cutting themselves or jumping out of windows or electrocuting themselves or pouring gasoline on themselves or whatever, killing themselves. And then now, I know so many couples, so many middle-class, wealthy people, their daughters are all on it. A boyfriend breaks up with them, somebody calls them ugly, and they get depressed. And then they go and they put them on some of these drugs, and then they go from being depressed to the phenomenon of young people cutting themselves. See, it's doing something in the brain. They admit in the development of it, it does this. The drug companies, folks, at the high levels, know it does this and know that it's going to get you into the system. We have to stop this. Over 15% of our children now on it, almost 16%. Those are the latest numbers. Had Dr. Breeding in yesterday. And now over 15% of adults. I mean, this is epidemic, and it's only growing, and it's so hard for the average person to get their brain around this. But if you will go research these neuroleptics and these psychotropics, they're in the hallucinogen class. Now, you did something that most other films just get into the science of it, as you said. Robert, you got into what's happening in your film, Prescription Suicide, and it's about to come out. Pre-orders are already being taken. In fact, I've got one of the first right here in my hand. It's now being mass-produced right now. You'll be shipping in the next few weeks. You can go to the website and order these. And I want to carry them later, but right now they're on the Prescription Suicide website, and there's a link to that at Infowars.com. But tell us, you were telling me during the break, you got into this with an open mind. You said, I'm going to make a film about this and see what's really going on. You weren't some expert on this. You just went and made a film showing what's happening from the personal view, and that's what makes this film different.
Exactly. I was a good friend of mine brought an article to me, and it was an article about Mark Miller, who is a big advocate out of Colorado, who lost his son, who hung himself in the closet, and I thought, what a great documentary, what a great story to tell. You know, I was amazed. I was speechless by it. So we took a year to research and find families that would participate with it. And the difference is, I didn't want to do a documentary like that has been done, the kind you see on 2020 or whatever, where you have the experts on one side and the victims on the other side and being balanced and whatever. I wanted to do an emotional story. I wanted to tell a story. I wanted these families to come out and tell their stories of what they went through their eyes, through the kids' eyes who have survived. And that's what I did. It's definitely an emotional roller coaster.
I'll tell you what's scary. Now there's this move to make people take these. And Big Pharma is paying for, what, about half the advertisement or more on the nightly news. You open magazines, especially women's magazines. Gwen, I want to get your take on this, and I know you talk about these subjects in your book, Confessions of an RX Drug Pusher, and I want people to learn how they can get this. But why are they mainly targeting women? I mean, I know that 80% of advertising already targets women. I learned that in college because women make most of the purchases. The other 20% is targeted at limited groups of men who make, on average, larger capital outlays. But most marketing itself is targeted at women, and it's no different with this situation with the drugs. And not just the psychological effects, also I've interviewed so many medical doctors on this, the toxic effects of it, but just as a woman who sold these, had problems taking them yourself, losing your knees through it, I mean, just your view on how this affects women.
Well, I actually believe that the reason that women are targeted, and I know that the reason that children are targeted, is because they're more compliant patients. Men aren't as compliant to take pills as women are, and women aren't even as compliant as children are, because what happens is children are forced to take their medications by their parents and by the school personnel. And they don't know how to complain. Even if they do complain, they're a child, they don't know how to intellectually communicate what's happening to them, what the side effects are or the symptoms they're experiencing. And so that's the reason that women and children are targeted by the pharmaceutical manufacturers. The children per se, though, are the largest growth potential that the industry has because we are maxing out. The marketplace is becoming saturated with drugs. And so they're constantly looking for new places to push their pills. And again, children are the best and the most profitable area to push your pills because, first of all, it's a maintenance drug, so it's a long-term drug that you're going to have to take lifelong, and they will tell you that. The first thing they tell you when they put you on an antidepressant is that you will probably have to take this for the rest of your life. And the truth is that if you buy into that, you will, because you will become addicted to the drugs very shortly, and the withdrawal is hell for most people if you've been on them long term.
Well, medical doctors we've interviewed who are against these drugs say, listen, you better get with a medical doctor and have a special regimen to get off of these.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, this is a lot worse than even heroin or something. This deals with the very chemical foundation of the brain. It isn't like heroin or cocaine that just hits certain chemicals, certain receptors. This changes the entire chemistry outlay of the entire brain.
That's correct, and they are also neurotoxic in large doses. And there's about 10% of the population that has a defective liver enzyme known as the cytochrome P450, and that's where the majority of these drugs are metabolized. So you have a very large population of people that say, such as myself, if you react to one drug negatively and they put you on another drug and compound that, you can very quickly get a neurotoxic combination of drugs that pass the blood-brain barrier.
Because the psychotropics are all made up of basically the same molecule structure.
Yes, that's correct. And so, you know, that's the reason why that this is such a prevalent problem. I mean, we have, in 2005, there were over 50 million prescriptions written for antidepressants in this country. I mean, that's a pretty huge number if you think about it. Pretty soon all of us are not going to have any higher thinking abilities or any, you know, we're all going to be dealing with emotional ability, everyone who's on these products. So, I mean, I think it's really something that we need to be aware of, not just with our children, because this is where the issue is really getting the most attention right now. But these drugs do the exact same things to adults that they do to children. It's just that children's physiology, their biology is different, they're developing, so therefore they are potentially more likely to have adverse drug reactions with any kind of pharmaceutical. They're 3 times more likely.
Robert Manserow, now you produced this film. When you're making it, did you ever think of like Brave New World, where the government makes everyone take drugs, or THX 1138? I mean, do you ever just think, man, this is like the Twilight Zone? I can't believe that this is happening, that this is this big, that all of this is going on?
Oh, absolutely. The more we spent filming it, the more we learned, and it just blew my mind. Incredible. And like I said, I had no idea whatsoever.
They know what they're doing. The drug companies come up with something that will make you go crazy, make you have more problems. In every case I've heard, they get you on one. What the average is 4 drugs they get you on by the end of it. And you're a complete basket case, and by the end of it, you really are crazy. And so they've got a pill they push. I saw an article a few years ago where they mail out millions of free samples of Prozac into people's homes, into their mailboxes. I mean, this is something that its molecules very similar to LSD, and it's